Bear with me.
And are we,
No problem.
are we unmuted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now you can call.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Is there someone on there that,
Yeah, who's that?
there was a
Gray
blank,
square.
blank screen?
Cindy, I think.
Oh, Cindy. The name is in the bottom left-hand
I
corner.
can't see it, okay.
Look behind you. Ethan.
Oh,
Cindy
Oh,
Lloyd.
it's Cindy Lloyd. Hi, Cindy.
hi Cindy. All right, first order of business is the minutes from June 6th.
I had nothing.
I had nothing.
Nor did I.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 6th meeting minutes as presented.
Second that motion.
Thank you, nicely done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
I'll make a motion to approve the June 6th non-public meeting minutes as presented.
I'll second that motion.
all those in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Jane.
All right, next on the agenda is looking again at the traffic ordinance, which we had looked at previously, made some changes to. The changes are incorporated in here.
Correct. There were some additional changes that weren't, that we didn't talk about at the last meeting. One of the questions that was brought up was section 6, the pedestrian section, which we questioned the language because it didn't really seem to mesh and to jive. So I bounced that back to Chad, and he says that he doesn't find that it's to be extremely relevant in this ordinance, because this ordinance is for stopping, standing, and parking, not essentially pedestrian safety. And he said truly pedestrians are only protected truly in the crosswalk. So he suggested just to omit that section out as a whole. So that was the first change. The second thing we talked about was the overnight parking section.
Right.
In what municipal parking lots in town we allowed overnight parking. One of the questions we had was whether overnight parking was allowed in the village shops, the 25 spaces that are allocated to us with the 99-year lease. Ron did go out and take pictures, and it is posted as no overnight parking, yet the signs are so old and you can barely read it. So I guess a question for the board is, I did review the lease, and there's nothing in the lease that stipulates whether it needs to be no overnight or daytime use only, or so I guess a question for the board is if we want to include that in the no overnight parking, if we want to identify the lots that are no overnight, or we can simply just state, as the current ordinance says, that in a municipal lot marked no overnight parking.
My preference would be in the ordinance to just state that the lots that say no overnight parking, you can't park overnight in. And that would allow us and future boards of selectmen to make changes to where those signs are or are not based on, current conditions and needs. With that said, that lot has been labeled no overnight parking since we did that lease, which is, I don't know,
I think
dozen or dozens of years.
I think the agreement was from 2008 or 2007 was the
Okay.
last agreement for it that we
When
found.
Dennis Ducharme owned it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to make any changes to that. I know you had expressed an opinion last time. I didn't know if you wanted to speak on that.
Well, I have, because I know it gets utilized for overnight parking occasionally, simply because some of the driveways and such on Pleasant Street and School Street are just so small, so if someone has company, there's no place to park them. And I'm more winter months than anything,
Mhm.
because you can't park on the street or whatever. So I mean, I know I've parked overnight there before, I obviously didn't even look for a sign.
You can't read.
Right.
Well, even if you
Very
could, I
faint,
never
right.
looked. I just did it, and I know when I've had company, my sister's parked there overnight before. So I don't know, I know we've never towed anything from there for overnight parking. So if we have it, we're not enforcing it, why do it? Why don't we just take down the no overnight parking signs and address it if it becomes an issue, because it hasn't been and it's not, so why
Who plows it?
the
Who's
mill?
responsible?
They do.
They're responsible for it. I
Mhm.
mean, should we check with them? I mean, would it create a problem for them to, plow people in? So, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
well,
again,
I shouldn't say, we've never towed anybody from the front. Along the side towards the back, there was a car that got plowed in all winter long, and literally stayed there all winter, and we towed it in the spring. Wasn't in the town right away parking. So, yeah, I don't know.
again, I'm just thinking of, if one of our residents parks there, gets towed in, then you've got somebody unhappy. But by the same token, they need a place to put their vehicle. I fully understand what you're saying.
I mean, right now, they can't read the signs. So it's not, technically not posted. There hasn't been an issue or problem. We haven't towed anybody from the front, once they're municipal lots. I would suggest to just take down the signs that you can't read anyway and leave well enough alone. And if in the future it becomes a problem, then address it then.
I mean, that would be fine with me.
Sure.
Yeah.
If it becomes a nuisance and the plowing becomes a problem to the landlord,
Yeah,
we can
Yeah.
revise, let's
Yeah.
revise it then.
Yeah.
See.
and we don't have to do anything to the ordinance.
Yeah,
We
we'll
just
leave
have
this
to
way it is.
Right.
I
vote
just
to put
want
signs
that
up, that's all, yeah.
won't post
Yeah.
it.
Do we do wanna reference though in the ordinance that isn't the parking at the fire station is no overnight parking, or those parking area next to the
But
fire
it's
station?
marked.
It's labeled.
That's
so-
fine.
So that, just labeling's fine then?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what this.
That's what it says, right, that's what the
It's-
original,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Then we can add no overnight anywhere we need to. and
Correct,
not
without
have to-
changing the ordinance.
without changing the ordinance,
So,
exactly.
so right now, what's intended to be labeled no overnight parking is on both sides of the street up near the fire station.
Cross street.
Cross
street,
street, yeah.
right, on the far side and the near side.
Mhm.
Right.
I don't know if there's anything else that we have. Do we allow overnight parking out here?
Not.
Not
Not
out
in the
the
Not in the
front
front,
here.
in
Not
the back.
front,
And
we do in
that's
the back.
signed, right.
Okay,
And
And
the
that is
back is
signed,
not
yes.
signed.
okay, then
Yeah.
we'll continue that.
Yeah, I agree that if it's not an issue, let's not make it harder than it has to be.
Right.
And if it becomes an issue, it's
We can
easily
address it then.
amended.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were there any other big changes?
No, that was it. We added the language for the permit parking, which we added at the last time. But those were the only kind of question spots, the permit parking, and then we added the ladies bathtub as an area that would require a permit parking.
Okay, and the permit is gonna be the solid waste facility sticker?
Currently, yes, we haven't ordered new stickers. We were just going with the solid waste facility sticker.
Okay, and have we notified Woodstock about this?
We did,
Lieutenant?
yes,
Okay.
yes. We let Judy know.
Yeah, I mean, we're not changing the wording or anything on it, so it doesn't.
Right. I think at the time when we let them know, we were thinking about changing the sticker and we said, if and when we do, we would, make sure everyone,
Right, well, we were gonna put that on our agenda for a joint meeting too, just to have a
Yes,
conversation.
just have a conversation about it, right? So we pumped the brakes on ordering new stickers or changing the stickers. We're just rolling with what we have.
Yeah,
Yeah, might
I
as well.
think if we leave it, then if Woodstock wanted to do a similar ordinance with parking at any of their facilities, they could use the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely, yeah.
Jim, did you have something?
On the overnight parking,
Yep.
personally, those cars are gonna be there just overnight. When I plowed McDonald's, there were cars parked overnight. I just go back, clean that little area up. If they were parked there for 2 or 3 snowstorms, then it became an inconvenience to them because they'd have to call John to get them out.
Exactly, exactly. That is a fact.
I was
Packed in.
hesitate to go like that with the snow.
And anybody that plows big parking lots, if there's a car that's left there over a prolonged period of time, anybody that plows, believe me, I've been there, will make sure it's difficult for them to get out afterwards.
Right.
Yep.
Overnight parking, I mean.
You
if
make
they-
it difficult for me to plow, I'm gonna make
Yeah.
it difficult for you to get out.
Well, I know that's what they do in Plymouth with the college kids. They make it hard for them
Oh,
to
yeah.
get out,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Mm.
do you want, I'll make a motion that we approve the Lincoln Town traffic ordinance as presented.
Second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
By the way, does anybody know, I see all the penalties under section 12 there. Does anybody know how much we've taken in last year in traffic fines or anything?
Chad would have that information.
No,
Um,
I don't know, Karina has it.
I have the revenue report from last year, I can tell you.
I don't know how detailed that is. Just parking, is it?
PD parking tickets.
Oh.
Last year, we received $1,995. With 3,000 uncollected, so it's still outstanding.
Wow.
For the first time in forever, none of that money is fine.
You're welcome.
Right.
All right, next on the agenda is an involuntary lot merger at 29 School Street. And we have a map that shows that in our package.
Yes, so essentially, you already approved this involuntary lot merger back in the beginning of May. So that's all said and done, the board voted to approve it. That is not the issue. The issue is now the homeowner.
We've unmerged the lots already, so now they're back to two separate lots, correct?
Correct,
Okay,
there's two
thank you.
separate lots. Yeah,
Thank
that's why I gave you that little map, so you
Yep,
could kind of see where the
perfect.
two separate lots are.
Yep.
We've received a request from the owner of that home to have the second driveway for the back lot essentially to come off of Pleasant Street, the Pleasant Street Hammerhead turnaround versus School Street. The first and foremost concern is we don't have the right
No.
to grant them access across the school's property to have a driveway off the Hammerhead. So number one, we can't give them access
Yeah,
unless
we
they have
can't even-
deeded easement aspects from the school. The second concern is Nate has concerns with another driveway coming off the Hammerhead because he uses that area for
Snow.
snow removal. So he has some safety and snow removal concerns. So I spoke to the homeowner today. I suggested her first step is to go to the school.
Perfect.
So I gave her the information to the superintendent's office. She was gonna reach out to the superintendent and see if a easement was even achievable on her end, because without that,
I know
she can't
when,
cross the property.
when the previous landowner there went to the school to get the easement, her easement was contingent upon receiving a driveway permit from the town. So the school was pretty adamant at the time that one go hand in hand, so.
Yeah.
But you're right, the first step is for her to go there.
And I did reach out to Judy at the superintendent's office just to kind of give her,
Heads up.
a heads up of what was coming her way. So she wasn't surprised in somewhat of the town's stance at this point.
Excellent.
It looks like that with a former applicant could put their entire driveway within the existing right of way, that on this 29 School Street, they would need to expand the right of way to fit a driveway in between the Hammerhead and their lot. It looks like it basically comes to
A point.
point or
Yeah.
near point without going into the
Right.
non-right of way section of school property.
And we had
But the
sug-
school can still grant that if they choose
If
to
they-
or not.
Absolutely.
But then if they do, it'll become an issue then of, okay, where can we put snow in a practical matter?
Sure.
So,
We also suggested that maybe she could share the current driveway that's already there with the neighbor, and that maybe that was a potential possibility. We have been made clear that that will not happen.
Oh, well, where that driveway is being put in, it makes sense to do that.
Yes. I guess there is some neighborly angst.
Oh,
And so we were told that they wouldn't be able to come to
awesome.
a middle ground on that point, so. But we suggested, that might be a possibility, but we were shut down, so.
okay,
Okay.
Thank you for that.
thanks. Don't worry. All right, we have some abatements.
We do, this isn't the last round. We have about half a dozen that are still outstanding. We should have those by the end of the week, but this is a good chunk of what was left from the first round of abatements. You'll find, I think there's about 5 and, I think there's 7 in total. 5 have been approved and 2 have been denied.
Okay, let's go through them one at a time. The first one is the map and lot number. Do you have an
Yes, I
address?
put the
Yeah.
card.
12 Kernwood Drive, number 1. The previous assessment was 373, the revised is 343. The assessor recommends that we grant the change. In review of this abatement application, no updates or changes have been made in the past 15 years. Therefore, I recommend adjusting the condition of the unit from good to average,
What is the total amount of the abatement?
for $30,000.
Make a motion to approve it based on the assessor's recommendation.
My only concern is that this is a multi-unit building. Wonder if the rest of them are gonna fall suit.
Well, the assessors should have taken that into consideration in their granting of this. If no abatements were made in this for 15 years, they would be comparing that to what was made in the other units.
Okay, gotcha. Do you need a second?
Yep.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's June 20. You can scribble outside the lines because,
No, you can't.
well, I tried not to. All right, next one is for 131 and 133 Pollard Road. And they're recommending that we grant an abatement. The previous assessment was 285.6. The revised assessment is 244.7. I spoke with the taxpayer and we went over both homes and I've adjusted the functional depreciation on the Cape for roof issues, poor insulation, seasonally wet basement, rolling floors, and settling. I've adjusted the mobile home for age of the furnace, pungent floors, and roof issues on the carport.
$40,000 roughly. I'll make a motion to approve it based on the assessor's recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next one, 140 Pollard Road. I spoke with the taxpayer and we went over the details of the home. And I'm recommending applying some functional depreciation as the kitchen and bath are original and outdated. And this is a previous assessment is 237,100, revised assessment is 223,400. So a little under 14,000. Yeah.
less. I'll make a motion to approve the abatement based on the assessor's recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next one is for 66 Bunker Lane, number 2. This is a long explanation, but I think it's worth because this is the previous assessment was 933. The revised assessment is 581.3. So this is a, what, $350,000 reduction. The grade and condition of this unit was adjusted for the reval after reviewing the MLS listing, which turns out had many errors, and according to the owner, was put into the MLS after the purchase and sales agreement had already been signed. The owner purchased the property under the assumption all work completed had been done properly and things were in good working order. We had attempted to contact the owner during the reval, but she was taking care of personal medical issues and we didn't get to connect until after the final value had been set. She was in need of a property that had handicapped access and a garage in this unit. Both and quickly purchased the property. However, it wasn't until after moving in that she found several things wrong with the unit, including a dangerous chimney flue, electrical issues, improperly installed showers, shower doors, and fixtures, which led to leaking and water damage. One bathroom is unusable at this time. The wood flooring was not well taken care of and is worn and some needs replacing or refinishing. Also, due to some poor plumbing work, a pipe burst and needs repair in addition to floor and ceiling water damage that needs to be fixed. The MLS also listed the unit as having air conditioning, which it does not. Although the unit has appearance of upgrades, many things were done incorrectly or used cheaper materials which need to either be fixed or replaced. Therefore, I have adjusted the grade, physical depreciation, added functional depreciation, adjusted the bedroom count, adjusted fireplaces, and removed air conditioning. This unit has been flagged for review in 2023 to see if any of the updates or repairs have been made. So they approved this reduction.
I'd like to know who did the home inspection to get a mortgage on it, because I never want to use it. Boy, oh boy, I missed a lot of things there.
It probably,
It
most
probably
likely
didn't have
to.
a home inspection.
Probably not. Couldn't have with all those, even a walkthrough should have shown that, but I'll make a motion to approve that abatement based on the assessor's comments.
Well, and I think it's good that they flagged it for 23, so because you're gonna see probably it,
If those get fixed, this should go up.
it should go up, correct, right?
Yep.
So
350, what is it, 581 they want to go to?
from 933 to 581.3,
The sale price was 902,000.
right? And as it
I
said,
know, I
that-
heard
that-
you.
all of that,
The previous assessed value was 470. Which means that their assessment goes up 110. Everybody's went up. I mean, I don't like it, but I like that they are flagged for 2023. Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It was definitely the biggest one, and so Cindy reached out to me personally to talk about it, because she knew there was gonna be some sort of sticker shock.
Yeah,
Never mind, I'm gonna use my filter.
again, that's why we go through this process, is they made some assumptions about that unit.
Mhm.
And again, they get their information off the MLS
The
that was
MLS.
incorrect. Okay, this is another one that they're recommending we approve, and it's for
What's the
14,
address?
oh wait,
Sorry.
of that one?
No, this next one.
14 Winter Way, number 4, which is the Lincoln Station. All right. Previous assessment was 475.4, new assessment is 446.3. So about $30,000. The grade and condition of this unit. The grade and condition of this unit was adjusted for the reval due to the fact that this unit was renovated, including all new windows and silestone counters. I don't know what silestone is. And vanity tops and new flooring, painting and maintenance. No permit or notification of the renovations had been filed by the previous owner, so it wasn't until the sale was reviewed that these updates were known. However, in speaking with the taxpayer, this unit has been updated approximately 15 years ago, and some of the laminate flooring is lifting in places. If updates have been made to other units in this building, the owners have not notified the town or the assessors. A renovated unit in building M just sold for $550,000, and that unit is not on the river and has no basement and is a 3-bedroom unit. Another unit in building M, which does have a basement unit, is also 4 bedrooms It has some updates just listed for 625 and is currently sale pending. Both of these units have also been adjusted accordingly. Therefore, I recommend adjusting the physical depreciation
What was it? What was it from what to what?
from 475.4 to 446.3.
I'll make a
So-
motion to approve this.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the next property is 11 Plummer Hill Drive. The assessment is 169.4, and the assessors would recommend that we deny any abatement. The taxpayer. She did review the property card, and the value seems to be fairly assessed given the market conditions at the time of the reval. And the taxpayer did not bring forward any
11 Plummer Hill?
specific. Correct.
And what is the assessment?
169.4.
Yeah, I would,
It's a mobile home.
yeah. And it's $70,000 for a mobile home on
I think it's the
a
land.
tenth of an acre.
I think it's the land that's.
Yeah, well, it's 0.15. Like
What have they got for the land versus? the
Nothing.
building there?
0.15 acre.
No, I mean, is there a value attached to the land and a value attached to the mobile home?
Maybe a low assessment.
Yeah, the land value is $130,000.
Yeah, so that's what.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's what.
I know,
Land is
I know, I
wonderful.
get it, I get it.
All right, is there a motion to deny?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and the next one is 26 White Oak Lane, number E6. Forest Ridge.
Yeah,
The assessment is at 4029, and the assessors recommend that we deny the abatement request. The taxpayer has provided an appraisal from July 2020 for the unit and feel the new value is high. However, in reviewing the sale used for the reval, there were 5 units on those buildings ranging, 5 were from units on those buildings ranging from 390 to 420 in 2021. Since the reval, there have been 3 more sales ranging from 410 to 475. I spoke with the taxpayer and explained the reval process and the sales of like units and how quickly this market is changing. I also looked at other units to be sure their value is in line with others, which it is. I also explained that in the appraisal, the unit is listed as being in average to good condition, and we have the unit in average condition for its age, which is in line with the appraisal. Therefore, I recommend no changes be made.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. What else is in the folder over there?
Yeah, while we're doing this, we're gonna just
Yeah,
go
please
through
do.
these things. All right, we have the application for reimbursement to the town in which federal and state forest land is situated, which we do this every year.
How much
So-
did the forest land go up in value? I know.
It's a lot of, in total. We have Fay State Forest at a value of $302,200. We have Franconia Notch State Park at a value of $5,202,700. We have the Second Presidential State Forest at a value of $66,700. And then we have the White Mountain National Forest at a value of $26,642,200.
What was Fay Wayside? Fay State Forest, just curious.
302,200.
I'll give them that for that piece of land.
I bet you would.
I could have doubled that for that piece of land. I mean, we don't need any motions or anything. We don't have much of a choice on this one, right?
No, and essentially,
We
it
just need to
We
sign it.
just need to sign it. I mean,
Yeah.
they've, the values per the Department of, well, that doesn't exist anymore. The Department of Resources and Economic Development is now a different name, but anyway,
it
they
used to be
have the
DRED, and
states,
now
the
it's-
state's numbers are in here. To come up with those. And CMP looks at these, or at least they give a recommendation. So, I don't know if we need a motion on this.
Just sign it.
I don't. I mean, unless we dispute the numbers, we have to get. Let's do a
Make a
motion.
motion to authorize the board to sign it
Second,
based on the numbers that we've been
That I
provided.
read, okay.
motion to approve the numbers.
All right,
Provided-
second, you seconded, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Provided they sell me that piece of land. I Still wish the Forest Service had gone in. That would've been awesome. Better than Camden.
This is a statement to the state saying we will not be using the form PA-28 taxpayer inventory, which we sign this every year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the difference is between this and the form we do use, but we have to sign this saying that we're not using that form.
Need a motion.
Yeah, let's do a motion. That the town will not be, the motion should be that the town will not be using the PA-28 form of, what is it called? Taxpayer inventory.
I'll second your motion.
I'll move the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. This is a petition to the Board of Selectmen from New Hampshire Electric Co-op, Consolidated Communications of Northern New England, requesting a license to install, maintain poles and structures, wires, cables with conduits and devices thereon, blah, blah, blah. One mid-span pole along Pollard Road and buried cable along Luann Lane. So in other words, they want to add one pole along our
Oh,
existing.
there's a house being built there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
some
yeah.
underground utilities.
I'll
Yep.
make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Can't really say no.
Yeah.
It would stink, the
So
poor
you see
people
no
building a
reason
house
to-
with no power. You can build it, have a
Oh,
generator.
sign right here, okay.
Yeah, they have to get all the necessary easements from, you can go to the landowners.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the process. It's just a pole license. They gotta do
Yeah.
it for every single pole that they have essentially.
Right, because they're putting it on our property.
It'll be
It's
in
on
the right of
The
way.
right
Yeah.
of way, the town
Yeah.
is on Pollard Road. It's right at the corner of Luann
Yeah.
Lane.
Yeah.
And then the, looks
Yeah,
like
there's a
the
map on
pole
the second.
going
page.
down Luann Lane is gonna be buried.
Nice.
Which I imagine is at the expense of the property owner if they're burying lines
Yes.
out there. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the town manager's report.
Okay. We'll start off with some good news. We were notified last week that we have been awarded the Department of Justice grant for the message board sign and the 2 new solar radar signs. So that is great news. I hope that will help us, in the future with traffic control and also for some of those, speed demons out there that we have some
I know
issues
what you're
with. So it's for $26,000, $26.98 to be exact. We are awaiting the final governor's stamp, but we've already been told by DOJ that we have it. It's just a formality now to get his stamp of approval.
Fantastic.
And we have notified All Traffic Solutions, and we'll get a purchase order going for those. So we
Very
are
good.
excited. Yes.
We love free stuff.
Is there any delay that you know of in, supply chain issues related to traffic signage?
No, I think we're good. They actually reached out to us first because they had other communities that were awarded something similar and started reaching out to them. So they had reached out and said, hey, did you hear anything yet? And at that point we hadn't. And then once we found out, Jeff jumped on it, and so we got those on order. So we're pretty good.
Okay.
Yep. I did reach out to Jim McMahon and Bill Lambert from DOT regarding the signage that would be, or the proposed signage or the discussion on signage for the connector road. Both of them didn't recall a previous discussion on the additional signage, and they questioned its effectiveness. The distance from the southbound on-ramp at exit 32 to Connector Road is less than 3/4 of a mile. The northbound on-ramp is only less than 1/4 of a mile. When you map that out to exit 33, it is roughly 2 miles. So they just weren't, they were slightly indifferent on how effective it would be to add additional signage there. So I kind of let it lie at that and said thank you for the information, and I would bring it to the board. So
I'm not surprised at their response, and I,
Yeah.
in fact, agree with them that a permanent sign there saying that you can get on 93 up there, it seems like a
Kind of
waste
reroutes people,
Yeah,
right.
big round.
which is
Right.
the purpose
No,
sometimes,
no.
but right.
On Columbus Day weekend, can we take this new sign that we just got paid for and say there is an alternative way up there, because that 1/4 mile we're talking about is super congested.
Right.
But it's only like that
So
for,
can we,
for a short.
I
Island
wonder
roads.
if we can, if we do 2 lanes at that point or something, and I-93 north this way, I-93 south straight or something.
Yeah.
That might be, on Columbus Day weekend, that might be an effective way to alleviate a little bit of it down where it bottlenecks.
Sure, I think that's a great idea. I think that's all possible. I think we would have to work with DOT to obviously allow us to put signage in their right of way and whatnot, but I think it's definitely a possibility. I think they would want to try to alleviate the traffic there as well. I mean, they're just as aware of the traffic problems as we are,
Right.
so.
And the fact that we've submitted to North Country, right, the council.
Yeah,
to-
for the corridor study,
to
yep.
cover the study, that'll help us too.
So, if they agree that a temporary sign there on a specific weekend is good, let them work with our police department as far as what it says, where it goes, and
Right.
see if it works.
Great.
They may even provide additional signage too.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. The Emergency Operations Center grant for the police and fire facility. So I was notified last week, Annie Custer's office called me, Nick Brown from Annie Custer's office called me and said that FEMA had initially rejected our house appropriation, that they weighed in on the house appropriation. They had concerns that the total project cost and what monies we were asking for kind of didn't jive. In the original application is when we were kind of didn't have a true understanding of what this new building might cost. So I threw in 5 to 7 million, not knowing, not having, designs or an architect or whatnot. From talking to some of these architects and our own town engineer, we are realizing that this project's going to be more than that 5 to 7 million, and it's probably going to be closer to the $10 million range. So I expressed that to Nick, and he thought that it might be best if we resubmit the application with the higher price tag and specify that the $1 million that we originally requested would be for the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center stuff solely. It wouldn't be used to construct the building. It would be used for the Emergency Operations Center. He also suggested that we bump up the price of the Emergency Operations Center due to just inflation right now. So we resubmitted the application for with a $10 million total project cost and requested 1.5 for the EOC. He felt that was going to be a better sell for FEMA and that they could see that the monies would be solely for, you know, the EOC Center. So he was confident that that would help us, and I haven't heard back from him, which I hope is a good sign. FEMA was meeting that afternoon that we spoke, so I didn't hear anything back, but he was gonna confirm confirmation this week. That was late last week, we found that out, so. Fingers crossed, we'll still get it and the ball will continue to be rolling, but there was a slight hiccup. So. While we are on the police and fire facility, I will give you an update that the building committee met on Friday and interviewed 3 architectural firms for the conceptual design and needs assessment and education and outreach. All 3 firms were strong, I would say. They, you know, they're all experienced in this field. One firm really stood out to us as just understanding the community, understanding Lincoln, understanding Northern New Hampshire. And they were LaValle Brensinger. Their RFQ packet is in front of you. I don't know if the building committee wants to chime in, but they really were the forefront. They really were the front leader.
And the other 2 were great.
They were
they really
great.
were.
They all had wonderful
This
presentations.
one just really felt right.
Right.
It just
They're a New
really felt
Hampshire
right.
firm. They're based out of Manchester.
And that was a unanimous, the
I was
whole
gonna
board
ask
was
that.
unanimous on that.
Perfect.
Right. They're out of New Hampshire. They've spent time in Lincoln. They've lived in Lincoln. They are ski at Loon.
Yeah.
They
One was an LRT
understand-
coach for a
yeah.
while, skied the kank.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah,
They came in, they had a good vibe. It was organic.
Coffee than an interview.
Right.
right,
The conversation was just so comfortable.
right. And if you're gonna, if we do end up building a, you know, facility of this caliber, that's gonna be a marriage. You're gonna work a lot with these people and it just felt right.
Felt right. And I think one of their strong points was they will have a woman, her name is Kathy, that solely focuses on her, that's all she's hired for. She's not an architect, she's not an engineer. Her sole focus is on education and community outreach.
Yes.
She is going to design a program to sell this for us. She's gonna get us all in the same script and
Totally
create
understands that.
postcards
if
and
it doesn't
brochures
Pass at
and,
town hall, we're building it.
right,
And what people that don't know, vote no.
right.
I loved how she said
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It just,
It
they
was all-
felt,
yeah,
they felt
it did.
right. They felt like a great fit. So the
Yeah.
building committee voted unanimously to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that we select LaValle Brensinger to do the conceptual
And they're
designs.
aware of our budget constraints.
Correct.
What we have, what we don't have.
Mhm.
Tammy made it real clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were the only one when, you know, we all know how Tammy is. And when Tammy was very direct in her questioning when it came to that, they were the only one that said, yeah, we can do it. We can make it work.
We
That
can work
sounds-
with
we can
that,
work with that."
absolutely.
All the other ones
Yeah.
tiptoed. They didn't even want to
Yeah.
touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Okay. But they said, well, ideally, we would do this, this, and this, but you know, you could get away without doing this.
Mhm.
And maybe we do part of this, if we can make it work with your budget.
Yeah.
They were, yeah, and they were honest about it. There was no.
Right.
There was one guy that I thought he was gonna choke when I
Yeah,
said, we don't have an open-ended budget here.
right.
Suits.
The suits, yeah.
And they were fantastic. They really were. Nice guys.
Every
fantastic,
presentation
but
was great. It
Yeah.
just, this one was definitely the right fit.
It fit.
Out of the park.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Good.
And they were hilarious.
Yeah.
Certainly trust your judgment. That's why we have a committee to do this, you know,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
the
So,
committee people have
Yeah.
invested themselves into this process, and the fact that it's unanimous,
Yeah.
excited,
absolutely.
says
Yeah.
something to me, so.
We all
Um,
said the same thing.
yeah. And I did contact Al today and Al said the same thing. as
And
well.
our
So-
first, second, and third were all the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
With everybody. Yep.
Good. Now, we don't need to vote on this, right? You're.
Well, I said authorize.
Yeah, I think the board should authorize me to engage in a scope of
To-
services with them
Yeah.
and get the ball rolling.
And a contract.
Yeah, because you'll come back with a contract and that we'll have to vote.
Absolutely,
Right,
right.
So, then I'll make a motion that we give you, direction to get a
Negotiate a
scope-
contract.
Yeah, negotiate a
Scope of
contract.
services.
Scope of work and,
Yeah.
scope of work and a contract price.
Okay, scope of work
Second.
and a contract price. You second it. All those in favor?
Aye,
Awesome.
awesome. Good news.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, moving on. So just an update and a reminder, the 2022 National Night Out with Lincoln and Woodstock Police Departments will be at the Hobo Railroad on Tuesday, August 2nd. All are invited, community events. This is the 6th annual, and there's 16,000 communities across the country that will be doing it on the same night, so.
Awesome. It's always a fun event.
And I know the PD is definitely looking for donations, so spread the word. You can contact Kara downstairs if you have any avenues of donations.
I'm good at asking people for money.
There you go.
What time does that start? 6?
Usually 4. It's
4?
usually like a 4 to 6.
Yeah,
4 to
4 I
7,
think
yeah.
every town kind of does it different. It's usually 4 to 6, 5 to 7, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Alright,
it's
I'll
usually
just
4,
put it for 4.
roughly.
It's in my calendar.
Yeah.
Um,
Always fun.
It is, and it's in my calendar. I intend on going like I have every other year, except for COVID years.
Right.
And
Oh, that's
if they
Provided I don't. have-
need
Yeah.
help with anything,
I will let Kara know.
happy to do that.
Okay.
same.
Energy audit update. So the grant that we received from DES to do the energy audit improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. Nate and Sam from Weston Sampson and I sat down and powwowed, and due to the inflation, we thought it was a good idea to get revised quotes on some of the work.
Sure.
Because we know we have a budget and a framework that we have to stay within, and we wanted to kind of prioritize the projects that would happen with the money that we have. So Sam went and got a revised quote for the new mixer that would be installed, and essentially that pretty much ate up almost the whole grant.
Right.
So, but Nate also said, and Sam agreed, that that was a priority project anyways. All the other stuff was kind of small, and it was nice that, it'd be nice to add on to, but the aeration and the mixers were number
The
one
priority,
anyways.
Sure.
So that is how we're going to move forward.
Good.
Weston Sampson is going to draft up a very kind of generic RF request for proposals for us, so we can get contractors in to install the mixers, but it's gonna eat up most of our funds. So just a heads up, but we are moving forward with that, and DES is aware that this is the avenue we're going down, and they are fine. So
Excellent.
Great, great.
Is that a this summer project?
we're hoping so, yeah. I mean, it will definitely go out to bid this summer. Whether or not we can get the materials and all that stuff might end up being more towards the fall, but we are planning to put it out to bid in the next month or so. So
Awesome.
some things that I don't have on my list, but I definitely want to touch base on. I did receive a request from the trustees of the trust funds this morning, a memo to the board asking, where is it? Oh. It says traditionally, the Board of Selectmen have transferred the capital reserves annual appropriations to the trustees in December of each year. We are requesting that you consider transferring the funds following the July receipt of taxes if cash flow needs allow. Our request is based on our recent meeting with Charles Matthews and Frank Anderson, our financial advisors from Bank of New Hampshire. Investing this year's appropriations earlier than December, we believe will yield a higher interest rate on the funds for a greater return. We appreciate your consideration, and should you decide not to transfer the appropriations now, it could certainly be done anytime before December, which would improve the town's rate of return.
Did you run that by John?
I did. So John and I spoke about it this morning. She obviously has some reservations because the numbers are,
Right.
and her concern is we don't want to take out a tan because we did this, we don't want to spend
Well, they're
money.
always liquid anyway.
No. The trustees ask,
Oh, once we transfer to them, it's theirs.
it's
right,
theirs,
right,
and they
yeah,
ask
yeah.
us every year how much we expect to spend so they can
Right.
allocate that without putting it into kind of the locked
Right, right,
structure.
right.
So John and I, she has some concerns and reservations, especially because we have some additional cash flow things that we have to take into consideration. The school bill went up about $50,000 a month for their appropriations for the 22-23 year. There are other bond payments that we're going to have to take out of our cash flow and put into the capital reserves because of the surplus that we had in those funds
Right,
that have
right,
kind of
right,
been our
right.
buffer, been sitting in a bank, but now we gotta return them to the capital reserves. I had asked her, how would she feel comfortable maybe if we funded them at 50%? She felt a little bit better at that point, but she was, like I said, slightly uncomfortable given the 1.1 million over to the trustees within the next couple weeks.
You know, I think that giving 50% now would be a start, and then review it like in September, the end of September. And again, as long as they're getting it early, I think they'll be happy. And again, if we don't meet it, I mean, you have another conversation with
July
John.
1 is the deadline for tax bills.
July 1's the deadline for tax bills. So we'll have a better understanding, but again, we're gonna have all the money in the world come July. It's September, October, November that we're gonna be, it's really more so October, November
November's
that we struggle.
November and
Yeah.
December seem to be the.
Yes. And.
And we won't have a reval this year, so hopefully the tax bills won't go out late. We won't be dependent on the reval and their numbers to have tax bills go out, but in every community
But we
across the
still-
board, November is always a scary month.
We traditionally, it is a scary month.
Mhm.
I'm not super comfortable. I'm not super comfortable. Just even the 1 year that I was in here, and it was a reval year, which was a nightmare, but still, it's pins and needles and a lot of nail chewing to get through and have enough cash flow to make sure, and, there have been years past where we've called into the school and said, hey, can you wait a few more weeks before that payment comes in? Even at 50%, I'd like to wait and to see, I want Jonna to be comfortable. If she's not comfortable doing it, I'm not comfortable doing it. So, I mean, I would leave it up to Jonna. If the end of July comes and she goes, you know what, I'm comfortable doing 50%, fine. I have no problem with that, but Jonna's gotta be comfortable with it.
She was more comfortable with the 50%, but she's, again, still has some concerns.
Which in July, you could be comfortable with 50%,
Right,
but in November,
you're right.
you're gonna go, darn, I wish I had that 50%.
Mhm.
So, yeah, this ball is in Jonna's court as far as I'm concerned. I don't think none of us should make that decision because she knows what's what goes where, what we owe who, and yeah, that's my opinion.
Well, and she may have a better understanding come July when she's plans on making some of these big payments and some of these big transfers. She could look back, say August 1 and say, okay, we're 200,000 ahead of where we were last year, or we are in a place where she could then feel more comfortable relinquishing some of those funds.
Why don't we table it until, the end of July meeting? See, and listen to John at that point in time, see where we are
I'm
financially.
good with that.
I'd be fine with that. I guess I would send a message to Jonna that the board liked the idea of 50% now and 50% later, but we're not ready to do that until later in July with her input. And if she agrees with it, we'll go forward with it. If she said, well, that's a good idea, but let's only do 40% or some other
Sure,
number,
yeah.
we will listen to her.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Great.
let's move forward like that.
Perfect. The last thing I have today is Coleman was out on this weekend on West Street, addressing some of the turf establishment issues and whatnot. And it seems as if everyone realized that Coleman was out there this weekend. So we kind of got a slew of phone calls and emails for property owners on West Street. One of them I just want to bring to your attention. I talked to Nate about it. They're at 44 West Street. When the road was put in, obviously the road was installed at correctly, right? With the crown in the middle and it goes off to the shoulder sides. And what I hear from Nate is that we were dictated by the state essentially where we could put drainage, because the drainage goes into the state's drainage, and we were allotted so much to be put into the state's drainage. So we were kind of bound by the state on where the drainage could go. Is that correct so far? Okay, so it's created an issue at 44 West Street because the road is now crowned properly and the water sheds off, and this person's driveway, this homeowner's driveway is lower than the roadway and it creates a puddle. So Nate says there's really nothing he can do about it. Unfortunately, it's not turf establishment, it's not, it's the grade of the road and the crowning of the road being installed properly versus it being flat before and their driveway being lower than the roadway. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. I will communicate that to the property owner, but just in case it comes down the line to any one of you, I just wanted to let you know that we were addressing it.
While we're on the subject of West Street,
Yes.
were the speed limit signs put back up after construction was finished?
I don't know the answer to that.
Could you check into that and make sure that that does happen? Please and thank you. That was a concern of one of the homeowners on West Street, and I mentioned it.
Where are we with the gate? Do we know? I know Nate.
It's ordered. It's ordered.
It's ordered.
Yeah.
I haven't received an additional update after
Okay.
that. I know it is ordered. I know
Yeah,
Nate
Nate
did
had
call the
said.
vendor and they said that they were expecting shipment to their place. I can't remember
10
the
days
date.
ago, 2
Yeah,
weeks ago.
yeah. But I haven't received an update
Okay.
after that. No problem. That's all I got for right now. I'll probably think of something, but for right now, that's all I got.
Jack, did you have anything?
Couple of minor things. Number one, we had talked about the CIP and you attended. I did call New Hampshire Municipal Association. They said we don't have to post it. It's not a selectmen's meeting. We don't have to have somebody take notes and meeting notes and all of that. I mean, other than for the CIP. So no problem. You're just a member of the audience. You're not a
Okay,
voting
cool.
member of the board.
Perfect.
Makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Stephen Buckley was the attorney that I talked
Perfect.
with now.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. The second item was, you had brought up, or it was brought up about affordable housing. We all know we need it. That was my bailiwick when I worked. There was concern voiced to me about being located in the industrial park. And again, speaking with Attorney Buckley, he said it could cause problems because you've got covenants in there that run with the land. And he said, without seeing the actual document, I have a copy of one of the deeds to the Donahue's there, and it talks about the covenants running with the land. And he did indicate that there has been case law. He cited, I think, a case in Atkinson, New Hampshire. So he said, before you jump into this full tilt, get your attorney, or he said, if I could see all the documents, I could make my opinion known, but it's only his opinion. So just bring that up. That was from-
Yeah, we knew that it would have to be, the zoning would have to be changed at town meeting.
That's the easy part.
Right, and then the covenants would have to be changed to the petition to the courts to change the covenants on it, which is the
That's, yeah.
hard part.
And that's what he said, there's been lawsuits over that very issue because somebody bought into a place, in this case with a covenant that says light industrial use. Now you're saying, wait a minute, houses are going in, so I'm just bringing it to the board's
Yeah,
attention.
no, I haven't have spoken to an attorney, unofficially, Frank, he's a friend,
Yeah.
but happens to be an attorney, that
As long as it doesn't cost the town. speak to the attorney.
is in the, exactly. He was in the opinion that it could be easily argued that the larger portion of the property would remain industrial park, and that there are still available industrial lots for sale for businesses and whatnot. And because there are a separate entrance, another way to get in and out, so it could be totally blocked off for fencing and for whatnot. So, I mean, then you could talk to another attorney that would say, oh, no. So it's,
No.
yeah. But I still think that we need workforce housing and we need to figure out
Oh,
how to
there's
do
no
it.
doubt about it. We need something.
And we need to get on the stick and we need to do it soon. And is there anywhere else that the town has land that they could negotiate with a head or anyone else to put in workforce housing? In order to qualify for the loans and things that they need through the government, they have to get it, I think it was 2% below fair market value. There isn't a soul in this town that is gonna sell their land at 2% below fair market value unless it was voted on at town meeting to put in workforce housing on town-owned property. There isn't anymore. Depending on if we build a police fire building over at the old airport in Mansion Hill, that other piece of property east of Mansion Hill Road, in between that and the convent, that could be utilized maybe. We need to do something. We've lost 15 staff members at the school, 15 staff members at the school. And there was 4 of them, it was because of housing. A couple of them retired, a couple went on to higher education, but I mean, it's,
You're on the Rotary.
Hmm.
Were you there when Frank McLean came and spoke?
I was not.
Oh, okay, because Frank is the executive director of Habitat for Humanity based in Plymouth. And I've done given them some grants in another board that I sit on. And I think they were gonna build like 60-something affordable units down there. And I had suggested to Lynn Warner that he come and speak before the Rotary.
Yeah,
about
they're
it.
low income units,
Yeah.
which is,
Low in-
would never pass in this town.
Well, they're homes that would probably be worth $300,000-400,000 based, and it's not low income, it's the person has to qualify with their income to, whether, I don't know whether they're targeting 80% of AMI or what have you, but anyways, it's something that maybe we look into, maybe I talk to Frank again, see where he's at. That was it, and then I had one other item. We had talked on the budget committee a number of years ago, and I think it's come before this board. I know I spoke with Ron briefly about it, about combining the fire departments between Lincoln and Woodstock. And I don't know whether this board has any consideration for that, whether Woodstock has any consideration for that. It's not something that's an easy sell sometimes because people want their own little fiefdoms or what have you. Ron's going to be the chief. He's a half an hour away. I know Ryan's a deputy chief. And again, Ron cited to me, they had an incident at the school or a call at the school. Thank God there was nothing. Am I correct, Ron? And,
Ron was here, you were here for that.
Yeah, he was, yeah. No, 7 of Lincoln's firefighters showed up, only 2 from Woodstock showed up. At one point in time, I can remember talking years ago, it was just the opposite. But again, I'm just throwing this out because a couple of people have approached me and said, maybe it's the time to now take a look at it. Maybe we'll get Woodstock to pay half for the price of the new building. No, I'm only kidding there. I didn't say
You
that.
just blew it, Jack, you just blew it.
Yeah.
But-
I would love to put that as an agenda item at our joint meeting.
And that's where I am, Tammy, with it.
Sure. It's worth the
Look at the pros
conversation.
and cons, and,
Yeah.
again, I'm just speaking to people that
Worth the
represented this to
conversation.
me, and let's put it out on the
Yeah.
table and get some input. And again, input from the firefighters, Ron and his staff, because they're the ones that live it every day. And so you want to get major input from them. So
It's
anyways,
definitely worth the conversation. I would agree with that.
thank you. That's all I had, sir.
I like that thought,
Mm.
but I've been there and talked personally with people in Woodstock. And I'm not sure that they're,
Recently,
no, not recently. No, I learned to shut up after. I was like, okay, this is going nowhere. Don't beat my head against the wall. But you know, it wouldn't hurt to ask the question of the Board of
Right.
Selectmen
When that,
when we meet with
when we
them.
meet with them, the joint meeting.
Yeah.
Have we set a date for that, by the way?
Yes, the 25th of July, right?
Yeah.
25th of July.
Going back to the conversation about workforce housing. You know, I think there's gonna be a lot of obstacles with the business park. We know there's gonna be, we know there's some vocal opponents to that. You know, and to say there's nothing else, no other plot of land that the town owns, you know, the town
I
doesn't
said I
have to
couldn't
be.
think of one.
Right, but the town doesn't have to be the owner of the land, but we could provide incentives or requirements through planning board rules that say, okay, if you're gonna build over X amount of units, you have to have Y amount dedicated for, and it doesn't have to be subsidized, it can just be for long-term, you know, minimum of 180-day or whatever,
Rental.
long-term rental. Because what we're seeing is very dense construction. But all for, you know, second homes, Airbnbs, hotel rooms, stuff like that. But that would be the planning board that would need to really research that and see what.
Could you bring that to the planning board?
That'd be worth a conversation, I'd do that, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you know, some of that, having gone through this process again, in the great state of where the mass holes come from, i.e. me, we allow developers to increase density based on the population that we're going to be served by that, based on them going
Sure.
to lower income individuals. Additionally, like if they require, we'll say one parking space per, we'd say, okay, you can get by with the 1.5. But again, and then that allowed a number of the developers to apply for federal grants, because there is a lot of money
Yeah.
out there in the housing field for this type of housing. So consequently, it's something that, you know, we should pursue.
We have to do something.
Yeah, definitely.
It's getting worse and worse.
All right, did you have anything?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Couple of things. Linwood High School graduation was June 10th. There was 20 students that graduated, and the local scholarships awarded to those graduating students was around $69,000,
Wow.
For 20 kids?
which was phenomenal. I
Yeah.
mean, just the support in this community for those kids is amazing. Yeah, good kids. The levy inspection with Nate went well. He
Went
said it was
great.
great.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Good,
No problems, good.
no
Yep.
problem.
no, he said it went great. Everything was awesome. We talked about that one. The attic cleaning is going well. Although the next 2 weeks we're in between, school is out and camp hasn't started, so I'm on grandma duty, but after that I'll go back to sorting through things.
Yeah,
again.
the attic, I mean, you can see,
That's the shred
Boxes are
pile.
disappearing.
boxes are disappearing. We were really thorough, and we really took our time, and we went through essentially almost every single box to open up to make sure that how it was labeled on the outside was actually what it had on the inside.
Yeah.
And if there were boxes that half of it could be just thrown away in the regular trash and the other half needed to be shredded, we could separate it to try to save some
Which we
money.
did, yeah.
Which we did. I mean, Tammy helped out tremendously,
Yeah,
and, you know, we really worked for 2 solid full days
Yeah.
on it, and we lightened the load in this building
Yeah.
tremendously.
And I'll continue to sort through. There's a lot of them, a couple of boxes that have been there for a million years. And going through, and I was excited looking at some, and then it saw the names and there are the reasons, and, you know, Mrs. So-and-so was committed to the state mental, what they call asylum for disobeying Mr. So-and-so for no less than 6 months period. It's like, oh, first of all, it pissed me off, but then second of all, I'm like, we can't, that's gotta be shredded.
Yeah.
And then there were other things about, I mean, local history, the square footage of the Lincoln Motel and the, you know, different things that are all gonna go to Carol at the
Historical.
historical, I
yeah.
will say humane society, the historical society. And there was a few things in there that I have a pile to share with Nate, because it had to do with underground pipes and lines and things. And so I want to make sure he has all that before it goes over there. But some of it was kind of fun going through. Some of it was wicked freaking tedious. It's just like, start seeing double, but it's getting there, and it's actually kind of cool.
You
sorting
can
through
actually
those
go
boxes.
upstairs and walk around.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
it was bad before.
it was,
It was
yeah,
beyond bad.
it was pretty scary. But anyway, that's going along and doing well. And then the big thing I want to talk about, I have a question. When someone gets a building land use permit to put on an addition, and they say on the permit, and I'm gonna paraphrase here, and I'm not using any names, that they're doing a 10 by 10 addition for storage purposes, additional storage. And it ends up being a 20 by 20 addition that adds a bedroom and a bathroom. And then never comes back in for a land use compliance certificate. So it never gets inspected, never gets anything, and they just move on. Then it's brought to the attention of our planning board. And our planner is told, that's fine, just leave them alone. It's been long enough. It's been years. Don't worry about it. How does our planner follow up on that without pissing off the chair of the planning board? Whose responsibility is it to follow up on these things? The planning board?
I don't believe the planning board is the enforcement arm of the town.
It's not.
That
We're
they,
not even at the enforcement stage yet. We're at the
Well-
follow-up to contact whoever it is.
to compliance,
Right, right, right,
enforcement,
right.
you know,
So,
collecting water and sewer tap fees, all of that is under the purview of the executive branch, not the planning board.
so the three of us can direct the town planner to follow up on this. Even though she was told by the chair of the planning board to just leave it alone.
The Board of Selectmen can direct that that be done. I'm not sure if the town planner is the enforcement person, but it's the
Yeah.
executive
Right.
function of the
So would
town.
it be the town manager?
I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know if you know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that the planning board doesn't have any enforcement. They aren't the enforcement arm. Usually it is the selectmen or the executive branch, as you said, you know, code enforcement, something along those lines. We also don't have a building inspector, so that kind of runs into a little hiccup we have. But I don't know, I don't think, I mean, do some communities probably have her write a letter to reach out initially? Yes, but no, I don't think it falls upon her. I think it probably would fall upon either you all or I. Or both.
With that being said, it would be appropriate for the town to take,
Well, that,
at least inquire.
my personal opinion on it is that it doesn't matter who, what, when, where, how, or why. If we find out, if we are notified, if we are made aware of a scenario in which a building is within a setback or is not in compliance, I think no matter what the initial step is, we write a letter, we reach out to them, we tell them, this is how you remediate the situation. You need to, here's an application for a variance, here is X, Y, and Z that you need to fix it. It might be fixing it after the fact, but at least it addresses that we understand that the building is not in compliance. That's my initial thoughts on it, is that we would do a simple inquiry like we do anything else, and we would,
Collecting on the tap fees and such.
correct.
Yeah, I
We
think-
can't force people to get an LUCC, you know, we've, you know,
think
we
we-
can't force ourselves to go, we can't force ourselves into the property, you know, so it's more so on a voluntary basis that they allow us to go in and inspect their property to do that LUCC portion of things. So I think the LUCC is kind of different than the variance to ensure it's compliant with our zoning regulations. But that's my kind of knee-jerk reaction is we send a letter like we would in any other scenario. We realize that this property, not kind of pointing fingers of how we got here, more so of how do we fix it from here on out? How do we make it compliant in the future?
I think we have that obligation to do that. Because people would just be building helter-skelter around wherever they want. And, it's not right to those that abide by the rules.
Right.
Correct.
So consequently, we have an obligation to address it, whether it has to come in the form initially of a letter or a sit down with the town manager. And then if we have to take legal action, we take legal action. Because again, I think, when Ron does, for the Airbnbs and things like that, it's safety paramount, is safety first. It has to be safe. And, if no one's signing off on it and no one's, at least looking at it, then I think we're not liable, but, it's not right.
It's not a good practice to say.
No, it's a bad practice.
Do our applications include authorization for a post-construction inspection?
Ron shaking his head, yes.
I
Yes.
believe so.
You're supposed
I-
to fill out your,
Okay, I thought it was in the application that they're signing, okay, here's my application, and when I'm done, I'm giving you permission to come in.
Right.
Pre, during, and post.
Okay,
And they also pay for the LUCC portion of things in their fee schedule for the
Right.
most part,
They do
right?
now, yes, as the fee schedule is revised.
yeah, I'm not sure, the case that Tammy's talking about, I'm not sure what years applications were
Sure.
applied for and what the language said and what the fees were.
Pretty sure that was in on them, if I know the one that.
You do.
So, and again, I don't want to make any guesses because, I know things have changed over time.
Over time, right.
But, my feeling is exactly what Jack said, that once we become aware, it's only
It's our
fair
obligation.
to all the people who have abided by rules, gone through variances, been rejected for things, paid appropriate tap fees, that we enforce that on ones that we find out haven't done that.
Well, and traditionally we have, if we are made aware of something.
Yeah.
We start that kind of investigative
Yeah.
process, we say, hey, is this accurate, so I agree.
Okay, and I like the approach of, we're notifying you so we can come up with a solution. Not that we can fine you or make you tear down your building, that's, no one wins with that.
Right.
But-
Well, it instantly puts up walls.
Yeah, can we find a solution and make application, and if you need a variance or further approvals or whatever it takes.
Right.
Whatever it takes. So, Paul, Jim?
The town doesn't inspect every house or every addition that's being built in this town.
supposed
Because I
to.
know when my mother put her trailer in 2006, I can't remember who it was from town, but they went through that entire house to make sure it was exactly the way it was supposed to be on the plans. When I built the addition on my shop, it was measured to make sure it was in compliance with the amount of space that I had on my plan.
You're probably one of the few that notify the town that you're ready for an inspection.
Right. I mean, you have to fill out the construction control affidavits and have those notarized and then hand them in with the LUCC and have it all done. And then they come and inspect your property and sign off on it and say, yes, you said you were putting in one bathroom and one bedroom and that's what you did. Or whatever, your addition is 10 by 10 and that's what you built. Or
Well, and
whatever.
historically,
Right, so
in
the
a,
town doesn't have,
Yes,
once
we
it's
do.
built, the town doesn't go and
We
inspect.
do, however, if you get your building, what's not a building permit, the end use occupant, no, what is
Land use
the
compliance.
land use? You get your permit to build whatever you're building. If you don't follow up and do the rest, we can't go break into your house to make sure you only put in one bathroom.
No, I'm not saying break into the
Right.
house. but, I mean,
We
they didn't
cannot
break into
make,
my mother's house.
yeah, because you let them in, because you did it the right way.
well,
But if you
isn't-
stood at the door and said, you're not coming in, we can't go in
I
and
think
check.
the issue that we find is that in today's real estate market or the real estate market that has been the last 5 years or so with it blowing up, is that we're finding people, traditionally, someone would get a mortgage, the mortgage would require a building inspection, the mortgage would require a occupancy permit that they would have to supply. In the real estate market that we see nowadays, people are paying cash,
They
no
don't
building
care.
permits, no, they don't need the mortgage company, the mortgage company, there is no mortgage company. So there is no kind of someone holding something over their head that says, we're not gonna give you this money unless you comply with us. They're cash deals without inspections. And so no one's coming back to get their LUCC. So we have started over the last few months, Ryan's going back through the 18s, through the 19s, through the 20s to see which properties weren't issued an LUCC. And he's reaching out to them, sending them an email saying, hey, we still have either some money in escrow or you never were issued an LUCC. Can we set up a date? So we've started doing that within the last few months,
With-
but it's a process that's gonna take some time to get
Some of
through
these
all of them.
properties have already changed hands.
Have already changed hands, right? So we're definitely trying to kind of go back in time and correct some of the, I don't want to call them wrongs, but to,
Right,
you know, to
right.
try to shore up some of these things, but we also are only, you know, a team of two, so.
Right.
But that's part of Brian's job responsibilities now, so.
So you're aware of what I'm talking about. You, yeah.
I'll get on it.
I also have a question with, when there are conditions of approval on a permit. Who follows up to make sure those conditions of approval have been met?
On a building permit or on like a site plan application, because I think those are two different answers. We don't traditionally, well, I don't want to say we haven't in the past. In my time here, what I've seen, we don't traditionally give a permit with conditional approvals, a land use permit with conditional approvals.
No, this
We
was
give a
site-
land use
this was a
permit,
site
and
plan
that's what you
approval.
gotta do. A site plan,
Yeah.
I think, well, a conditional approval isn't a final approval. It's a conditional approval.
No,
Approval
a
with
condition of
conditions-
approval.
Conditions.
In other words, we approve it, but there's a condition, which
Well,
is,
yeah.
is typical, and it's, you know, it's hard to follow up on that. I mean, one example is the condition of approval back when we're talking about that fence on Hanson Farm Road.
Mhm.
That property was approved back in 2000.
Right,
I mean, it was
right, right,
20 something years ago.
Right.
And one of the conditions was a fence. Well, no one remembered that. There's a
Right.
new owner and new neighbors and no one remembered that, except for someone did remember it after the fence was gone.
Right.
And brought that to our attention. So that's
Gotcha.
kind of how,
Yeah.
you know, the condition lasts forever. And sometimes no one knows it was a condition. There's
Sometimes-
been conditions on lights and hours of operation and, you know, listed with the business and, you know, 20 years later, no one remembers it.
Right,
It's hard.
yeah, no, I get
It's
that,
hard.
okay.
Like some of the bigger projects, like the other hotel. One of the conditions was to upsize the pipe here at Church Street. And that was kind of negotiated that they won't get their occupancy permit until that process is done. As long as they meet all the other criteria, which was available fire flow, water, and everything else, they can apply and get their permit. So some conditions of approval, like that case there was they won't get their occupancy or be able to operate until they meet that final condition.
But can we really not, can we really prevent them from
Yep.
operating? Okay,
Because
Yeah,
it's
When it
written
comes to
notice
something
of
like that,
decision.
yes.
Okay.
But something like that, I'm gonna say it's easy,
Mhm.
but we know that once they replace that pipe under the street,
They've met that
they've
condition.
met the condition and they're
Right.
done.
Right.
I mean, 20 years from now,
but
They
if a
put the pipe
condition
in,
of
it's
the,
done.
if a condition is that they maintain a fence along the back of the property.
right, 20 years later.
25 years
They
later,
take it down,
right,
it's, yeah,
Or there's been, you know, there's been things in town where you have to close your business and shut the lights, the outside lights off at whatever, 9 o'clock,
Dark
10
sky
o'clock.
lighting or something.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, because everybody's up in arms about, you know, the lights in the neighborhood. Well, 20 years later, they might be doing, you know, staying open till midnight every night. And no one knows that was a
Gotcha.
condition because
Right.
no one remembers it.
Personnel changes within the town.
Within the town,
No one may.
Ownership
remember
of the
that.
Ownership of
business,
yeah.
neighbors, I mean,
Neighbors.
all of those things change and people don't realize that
Right.
that's a
You
condition.
almost have to put it on the property card to remember it.
No.
I don't know how to track that, actually. I mean,
Well,
I don't know how to track it either. I mean, I do hope that when we get the new building permit software kind of up and running, that maybe there's a mechanism for us to be able to, not to be able to easily identify if there was something, you know, there's probably a notes comment or special
Right, right, right,
permits or
right,
something
right,
like that, but going back.
Yeah.
It's.
Right, now I get it. Okay, thank you for that.
So it's
We'll send a nice letter.
in our hands to
Yeah.
work with property owners that we find out have problems or issues with their permitting or building or construction. And make compliance.
Thank you.
I didn't have anything else. Public participation?
Do we know
Paul?
who's on the iPhone? Do we care?
Was not Cindy?
No, she's gone.
Oh,
I guess it's only if we don't need to know who it is unless they do
Unless they
public
address the
comment.
board.
Yeah.
okay, Paul?
Yeah, I have a couple for you, OJ. Is there a way to assess an impact fee to address the employee housing shortage?
If we have an impact fee provision in our zoning, we can.
We do.
We do, and that's what I was wondering is that, I mean, most of this seems to be commercially affected, you know, the employees for commercial establishments and everything else, but it seems like there's a lot of construction going on, and if we had if the impact fee could address some of that, maybe that could generate some revenue that could possibly purchase some property.
I say that, and now I don't say that I'm not correct, but I know that impact fees.
You're walking both sides here.
Specific.
Well, no, I know that impact fees need to be specific in regards to kind of infrastructure stuff, like
Right.
roads,
Water,
utilities,
sewer.
water, sewer. I don't know if employee housing would be considered, but I can look into it, because I think it's not a bad idea at all. But
I mean, it is affect, it does affect.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
but the
I'm just not
law
sure.
states, you know,
I'm not sure if the RSA allows that, number one, but we can look at that.
we'll look into it,
And
yeah.
number two, if it does, just like water or sewer, it needs a specific plan. We can't
Right.
have an impact fee for water just because we want to. It has to be for a specific,
Right, upgrade to be able to
Project.
handle, right.
right, you know.
Well, and I know there's also the town has the ability to do special assessments on developments, on things like that. So that's a whole nother avenue that maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm not looking to, it just seems like the businesses are the ones that are being affected by the employee housing thing the greatest. And that if there was a way to generate some revenue either through impact fees or special assessments to be able to purchase some property, that might help the situation, and it might be worth looking into.
Well, again, I'd go back to what I had talked about before is if the planning board would look at our density requirements, parking requirements, height requirements, and maybe make them stricter so we have a little less dense construction going on. But then do as Jack pointed out and say, okay, we will soften or extend some of these restrictions if you put in X amount of workforce, long-term housing. And again, I'm not talking about subsidized Section 8 housing. I'm talking about just a place where someone can live, someone, a school teacher, a police officer.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of the same thing as an impact fee? I mean, you're looking at a developer or someone who's building a commercial business and saying, look, you need workers, we need workforce housing. So in order for you to build this manufacturing plant, you're going to have to contribute a certain amount of money so that impact employee housing, workforce housing could be established.
Yeah,
So
but
I mean, I don't know. It
An
was just a,
No, I don't think it's a bad idea, but an impact fee, we are gonna have to regulate, and then we are gonna have to abide by state laws as if work's not done within so many years and you have to return the funds. Whereas if you turned it around and put it into the regulation, that puts the responsibility on the business owners and on the contractors, whatnot to do so. And it takes the burden off of us having to administrate it.
Right.
Either that or, Paul, you know, we called them linkage fees before, and I had a long conversation with Peter Malia before he left about this. And I think that one thing we could do is create an ordinance that might deal with that issue specifically and set up, you know, a bank account where funds would go in there for the sole purpose of construction workforce housing. And the burden falls upon the town to find and to build based on how much money it has and where the appropriate spots are.
And I'm not sure, Jack, that you need to, that the town needs to shoulder the whole burden. I think that, what is that? What is that company that builds workforce housing? Maybe
Yeah.
ahead,
Yeah.
maybe if you had for lack of a better word, a pot of money that was from impact fees or whatever the fees you were talking about, and you went to a head and said, look, you make this thing work and the town of Lincoln will work with you and contribute X, and then they could get it going. So I mean, it may not need to be the town to be in charge of it, but I think there's different ways to look at the skin in this cat that could help. I mean, we have a great opportunity, I think, on the highway. I think there's land up there that's underutilized, and I think that would be an awesome place to start looking at some sort of employee or workforce housing. But I mean, I agree with you that I don't think the town should be heading it, but I think the town could help establish funding, and maybe a head or some other organization could develop it and just, you know, work in collaboration that way. Just an idea.
The more people you have, the more entities you have, sometimes, Paul, agencies or what have you, that show support for it, the easier it is to get some grant money too.
Yeah.
There is, like I said, I know for a fact, I'm still involved in that. I'm the treasurer of $11 million in affordable housing funds. And consequently, we've given money to AHEAD, we've given money to the Bridge House, we give 100,000 down there to them. We've given money to Habitat. So there is money available for such things, provided that, you know, you find an entity that's gonna spearhead the whole movement.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask was I think directed towards Tammy. Tammy, have you heard anything about the school apportionment funding formula meeting? I haven't heard a thing yet. I don't know if they're meeting. I don't know if they're not meeting.
We have a school board meeting Wednesday, and it was in, I just actually got the packet. It's in the superintendent's report. I know it's me and you and Jasmine Whedon is the school board's representative for Lincoln. And then it's Kevin Bell, Cheryl Reardon, Jay Palomino for Woodstock, and then Rick Baker is the neutral party. The dates have not been set. But I do know that that's who the committee is going to be. So I would assume that Wednesday we'll probably start selecting a few dates.
All right.
I did let Judy know that I gave her your contact information so that when the dates were ready, that you could just email you, Paul.
All right. Thank you very much. The last thing I had was when you were talking about enforcement of a lot of this stuff for the planning, I think the code enforcement officer being the dedicated appointee by the selectmen to do the enforcement, because I believe the board appoints someone to be the enforcement arm of the board for planning board stuff. I think your code enforcement officer is probably the avenue that has the ability to go on site no matter what and do an inspection based on a permit or anything else that's submitted. I also believe that the planning office has certain responsibilities too, but I think that your code enforcement officer is the one that you have dedicated that enforcement arm to, if I'm not wrong.
During construction, but not post.
Yeah, when they
I
sign-
think it's the same thing, Amy.
well, you're right, when they sign the current version of an application, there is that clause in it that says by signing this, you'll let your allowing the post-construction inspection. When we go back to a permit that was applied for, let's say, 10 years ago,
Yeah,
and no one's followed up. Number one, I'm not sure if that language was in there, because I remember talking about that to,
Case by case.
yeah, to get it in
I
there.
think if you look, I think if you look at the RSA, it says that the selectman or their designee, and there's no time limit on when they can go in and do an inspection before or after an approval. So I probably should look at the RSA, because I think it, or consult with an attorney, but I think your code enforcement officer has a lot of leeway, because the Board of Selectmen has designated them there to be in charge of that. And I think that, I think you probably should look at that, because if you're having any issues like that, you're right, it's not the planning board. They don't have any of that responsibility. It is the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen passes that off to, not passes it off, but appoints the code enforcement officer. And that person has all of the authority, I believe, in the world, before, during, and after. Because if someone does something after, it's the code enforcement officer that has the ability to go in and identify that. And they can go in, and Ron's right there. I'm sure he knows exactly what it is. He can go in and check a property after it's built, 2 years after. I mean, and we talked about this at South Peak when we were talking about the amount of bedrooms. Ron could go in and say, hey, there's a life safety thing, and find out that they had 5 bedrooms instead of, 10 bedrooms instead of 5, and there's no access. So, your code enforcement officer has a lot of ability, I think, to take care of what Tammy's talking about.
Right, but we still, but it doesn't negate the fact that if it's 2 years later, we don't have a key to that home, we still gotta reach out to the homeowner. and-
Right, correct.
So,
Right, yeah,
again, I
correct.
like the approach of let's work together to
right.
get this in compliance.
Let's find a solution. Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just saying it's,
Before we take any steps, I'd like to find out what authority, because I know that there's a difference between a town that has adopted
The building
the
code,
building code and has a
building
code
inspector.
building inspector. We have not done that, and there are reasons that the town hasn't done that. By not doing that, I don't know what our authority is to go in and inspect on demand. Maybe we can see what,
Yeah, I'll look into
what the
it.
difference is and what we can and cannot do without having an official building inspector and adoption of those codes.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And I'll comment on that, but I'll also bring it up Wednesday night at the planning board meeting is, I don't know if the town spearheading the actual construction of workforce housing is the best thing. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I'm not sure if that's gonna be as effective and as immediate, especially because we don't have current land. Let's say we got a pot of money over the course of time. Well, I don't know what town land we're gonna use to do it. But if we had incentives that said, okay, I'm gonna buy a piece of land and I can fit 30 condos on that land based on the rules and setbacks and heights and all of that. What if we changed the zoning that was a little less dense, that you could only build 20? But a provision that said, if you have some workforce housing on that, instead of just building 20, you can build whatever
35,
number, more than
5
20,
of them, right.
25. But you have to designate them for workforce housing. That doesn't cost the town anything
And that is a better approach too, because I think we've missed the boat
on the big pieces.
on the big piece.
Right.
Because, there's not much land left in Lincoln to be developed by these larger developers, other than a house lot here and a house lot there, and that's quite frankly not gonna cut it. Hindsight is 2020. If we
Well,
just started this in the 70s, we'd be golden.
And it lessens the
Not to s-
burden
Right.
on.
There's a-
Not to say that every little bit doesn't help, because it certainly does, but I like the idea that OJ has, it puts it on the developers, the builders, and it takes the town out of that mix, which is not a bad thing.
There's a ton of land.
Oh, wait a minute. One of the concepts is that allows a developer to build over and above what typically would be, is that they set aside X amount of those units for affordability, period. And that's the way.
Workforce housing,
Yeah, for workforce
long-term
housing.
rentals, yeah,
affordability,
something,
exactly.
yeah,
Same, I'm using the terms.
sure.
So consequently, by allowing them, you've created, okay, hey, you're getting a chance to build X, and you're not gonna be able to charge market rate, but you're gonna be able to have workforce housing, you're gonna get a return on your money because you fact that you're building more units. So, and I mean, I know the city of Boston does that constantly, and they're talking a developer win, and he's got to put in $10 million towards what they call a linkage payment. And they've got to set aside, I think, 20% now in the city of Boston for affordability, because everybody's getting pushed out. So,
I mean, there's a ton of, Tammy, there's a lot of land available in Lincoln yet to build on. It depends on where everything goes, but I mean, you can go right from the back of Indian Head to Old Campers World, to Clark's, to South Peak, to the Landing, I mean, there's a huge amount of property. Even though no one wants to do it right now, it doesn't mean that in the future, things may change and
That's a good
family
point.
hierarchy may change, and it may be.
Campers
just
World
great.
alone could be huge, yeah, you're right,
Yeah,
good point.
But
all right, before we adjourn, just to make an announcement, the town has reached a settlement that was finally fully signed with former Chief Smith to settle the lawsuit that he filed against the town. That a copy of the settlement is on file with the town clerk. Correct. That is there in paper.
Can we point out that this was at no cost at all to the town of Lincoln?
The insurance company Charter Oak. What's the number? I'm getting it right here. 107, yeah, $107,000 was paid by the Charter Oak Fire Insurance Company to settle the case. And again, it wasn't due to the lack of any strength of our case. It was a financial decision based on what it was going to cost them to
litigate.
bring experts in, and most potentially not getting the reimbursement of the witnesses,
Right.
people from out of town being brought into town, flown into town, put up overnight, et cetera. So
It
that
was more economically feasible for them to settle than it was to litigate,
to litigate. So,
again, at no cost to the town,
litigation costs.
taxpayers.
yeah. So that has been settled, and the settlement agreement, I would read it, but it's
Yeah, no,
5 pages
yeah,
long.
no,
It's legal,
it's public record on file.
public
with
record,
the
it's
town
on
clerk.
file. If anyone wants to read it, it's there. We have nothing to hide. Settled it. We put in some language that was mutually acceptable and
Well. Sorry,
settled it.
I have no filter, I don't know if you know this, I have no filter.
And then the case with Joe Chenard has been settled. We announced that a while ago, and we're at the point of waiting to see if he's cleaning up his
This is gonna
his
comply
lot
with.
and complying with the court ruling, and we're hoping that he does and that this goes away. But we will see that when the date is September 20
I
something.
don't remember it off the top of my
Late-
head,
late
but it's
September.
definitely September.
Yeah,
September
late
something.
September.
It was early September.
I think it was the 12th. For some reason, the
Yeah.
12th is sticking
Yeah, it
with
was
me, but
early
I'm not-
September.
I'm not quite sure.
That came through, yeah. So, did you have a question, Paul?
yeah, OJ, how many other legal cases are pending within the town currently against the town?
Janine Wood? The
Janine
West-
Wood?
The West Street project?
That's it.
I think
That's
that's
it.
it, yeah.
That's it.
Just those two?
Just
Yeah,
those two.
I'm the town's good luck charm, Paul.
Yes.
Wait a minute, that makes two of us. There's been no new one since I've been on the board.
Me and
so
Jack.
Let's keep it that way.
Well, I mean,
You're whittling him down, that's
technically,
good.
The Chouinard case is still current, but the other
It's
things
been-
the ones
yeah.
mentioned.
We've got a court ruling.
Not ruling,
And we're just
right,
waiting
yeah.
for the
In the
enforcement.
favor of the
of that.
town.
Right, right.
And do you have any expectations on when these will be settled, like the Gene Wood or the West Street?
The West Street one, we were kind of waiting
We
for
were
the
waiting for the substantial
Project-
completion,
project to be completed or substantially complete and.
which
and
was issued last week.
Our engineer is working with our attorney to kind of finalize some of the
Overruns cost.
issues, yeah, that were discovered and what the costs were.
The
for
town's damages,
The town's
essentially.
damages to put all that together before we move forward, so.
Which I think you and I, with that spreadsheet where we allocated like where the money went and how much, who we spent on what and how much we spent to shore up things and close it up for the winter, I think is a pretty good kind of
Right.
inventory of that, so.
Right, that was the start of it, but there was some things that they had to fix along the way that Ray.
I know, we got a
was
change order last week on them. so.
aware of, so, yeah, there's things to add to that, but
Was there anything, actually, two other questions on that. So Gene Woods one, is that still ongoing? You don't have any idea when that might be settled?
There's no court dates set.
There's no court
There's no
date
court
set.
date set.
We're
No.
Court date, okay.
essentially
We-
And on West Street, is there anything, I know at one time, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm just trying to recall this, but on the West Street, was there something about being able to recoup some monies from the engineering firm for some of the things that happened on that project? Or am I just out in left field? I thought there was, the town was looking at something at one time.
Only the construction, not the engineering.
the,
No, I think there was something, I could be wrong.
in the mediation that failed, there was potential to bring in funding from engineers. That failed.
Right.
So it's, at this point, I mean, if we can go back to mediation and settle things, that might still be on the table. But I don't know if
Okay.
that's in place or not, but it might just all be decided in court.
It was considered at one time, right? I mean, I seem to remember the
There
town
was,
discussed,
considered, yes, there was, as part of a mediation settlement, there was talk of other participation. That all went away when the mediation failed.
all right, thank you.
Yep. All right, we have one issue to talk about, personnel,
Yes.
okay? Is there any other, there's nothing else legal?
Nope.
Or, okay, so I'll make a motion which non-public to discuss a personnel issue.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh. Okay,
That's what I was thinking.
okay.